Hi there. One of the things that really can get people going is media bias. People genuinely hate it, and they can get very upset about having seen it. And the bias always seems to work in their minds politically. Somebody from the left hates somebody from the right, and they're going to try to make them look bad, or they're going to misreport or misinform what's indeed going on. But sometimes people don't understand that the motivation for these biases are wired into human beings. They're a result of human nature. And once you realize that, maybe you might not get so worked up about media bias, realizing that's just how human beings are. You have to understand that most of the things that we refer to as human nature are not necessarily positive. Cumulatively, I'd say they're probably negative. Anyway, so here's my take on the things which cause people who report the news or inform others about what's going on in the media, analyst, specialist in a field, whatever. Here's what informs their choices and how they present it to you. One of the very obvious things about human nature is that people delight in other people's suffering or misfortune. I had the misfortune personally to work in an environment where I saw that continuously. People were often called, quote unquote, written up for misdeeds they had done. And when that got out to the public that somebody had written up, very rarely did I hear, "Oh, poor John, it's a shame he got written up." Usually it was, "Oh, did you hear about it?" The same goes for public figures who are reported on, or who engage in politics, or engaged in business. Reporters enjoy bringing you whatever, and whenever possible, things that might show them having taken a misstep, said something wrong, tripped. And that's because they know people will watch, listen, or read that. So they present the negative aspect of someone. It sells. Another thing that causes media bias is they know that the reader or the watcher actually enjoys, as the reporter or purveyor of the news does, in feeling superior to someone else. If you can present yourself or a case in such a way that you think you are above the person who's being reported, you feel great. How often have you heard blankety blank, who happens to be a person in an extremely important position, or even a doctor or professor? Isn't he a dumbass? What does he know? Can you believe he said that? It occurs all the time. Another thing which flavors and colors media bias is the desire for most people to affiliate with the group. We all want to belong. It's our human nature. So we pick either side A or side B, and everything that we see is projected through that lens. That includes the people who are providing us with the information. They put it through their own lens. And then we, as the consumer of that information, we then either reject it because it's not in conjunction with our lens, or it is, in which case we accept it and we say, "Oh, that's right." But that's media bias. Another thing is that most people, and I know it's a generalization, but it's true, most people have an inadequate sense of their own self-worth. They have low self-esteem. If they can raise their self-esteem by putting other people down, they will. That applies to the reporters, again, as well as the consumers of the news. If we can use the news to put someone else down, we will. Oh, look what a terrible job he did. The inflation rate is 9,900%. I'm exaggerating. But people do that all the time, and I'm sure you've witnessed it. The last thing I'm going to mention is that people, by their nature, delight in chaos. They like to create a mess. They like to see a fight. They love it. What do you think people go to hockey games? I'm only kidding. I love hockey. But people do like fights. People like things to fall apart and not work, because then they can say, what I do does work. This person hasn't got a clue. If I was in charge, I would show you how to run it. But the only way they can achieve that is by chaos. So they like to see chaos. Anyway, those are just 5 little notions regarding media bias and how it's not all colored by politics. It's actually governed more by human nature. Adios. See you next time.